director of the Joseph T. Quinlan Bereavement Center, and I'd like to thank the Church of the Good Shepherd who have welcomed us year after year into the warmth and comfort of this beautiful church for this annual tradition. The church did want me to mention that on Friday, December 16th, there's a Christmas organ concert here. There are flyers in the back if you'd like some more information. A special thanks to Isla Ruggiero Funeral Home. For decades, they have played a leadership role in bringing this event to Pike, Sussex, and Warren counties. And I would also like to thank Planet Networks for their community sponsorship support for this very special outreach. It is very important that we are all here tonight to witness the power of a group and the support for each other that this group can provide. Thank you for allowing us to share the memories of your loved ones and the honor that we carry and the trust you have placed in our care. So before we get started with the program, I would like to introduce our guest speakers for tonight who will help to read the memorial names of our loved ones. Barbara Palumbo, our nursing supervisor with Karen and Quinlan Hospice. Dawn Bump, who is our chaplain here from Karen and Quinn Hospice. Jackie Giske, who is our director of social work with Karen and Quinlan Hospice. Marlena Shedding, our chief operating officer. We have our mayor, Sean Strub, from here in Milford. And John Quinlan, who is our director of the foundation for Karen and Quinlan Charitable Foundation. Following the reading of the names, we will have a musical selection, some words of reflection, and then we will transition across the street for the lighting of the tree. So at this time, I would like to invite Barbara Palumbo to start the reading of memorial names of our loved ones.
Thank you. Tonight I'm going to start with the featured stars. Dominic A. Ruggiero Sr. with love from the Ruggiero family. Judith Ann Ruggiero with love from the Ruggiero family. Carol Ann Presley with love from Laura Napolitani. Jack Goebel with love from Marie Goebel. Jackie Smart with love from William Smart. Karen A. Cohn, the princess, with love from Peter E. Cohn Sr. Sandra Smith Fredericks, with love from Bill and Ruth Ann. David B. Simmons Sr., with love from Ruth, Dennis, and David Simmons, and Mark Coteen. Carol J. Hazelton, with love from Ruth, Dennis, and David Simmons, and Mark Coteen. Janice Stevens, with love from Mark Amandiglio. Maureen Amandiglio, with love from Mark Amandiglio. Mary McCormick, with love from Eugene McCormick. Janet Lee Stay, with love from Adolph Stay. Liam Dean Fagan, with love from Mom and Dad. Anne Pello Wagner, with love from Harold and Lois Pello. Jeanette Clem, with love from the Friends of Hospice. Carmine and Pat Polizzo, with love from Chuck and Laura Masili. Louis Amari, with love from Chuck and Laura Musili. Chuck and Dot Musili, with love from Chuck and Laura Musili. John Shedding, with love from Mary Ann and Jack Shedding. Christian Edward Jarecki, with love from Edward and Helene Jarecki. Joan Clemens, with love from Bruce, Sean, and Laura Clemens. Marlene M. Clark, with love from Robert Clark. David Stansfield, with love from Richard Stansfield. William T. Loverd, with love from Robert Loverd. Friends and loved ones, with love from the Romano family and Ronetco Supermarkets. And Raymond Cordes, with love from Friends of Hospice. Now I'll read the Lights of Life memorial names. Mary Keith Abbott, Joseph R. Abdi, Frank Abruzia, Rosalie and Al Acampora, Mary Ahern, Lou Amari, Earl Amy, Andy and Nancy Andrico, Robert George Aram, Martina Augustine, Jerry Oriema, Maureen Avendiglio, Lynn Axiotis, Marie Bamert for Barbara, Elwyn Barker, Gary Barker, Barbara Jean Barthel, Francis Batiglia, Manjit Bawa, Leo F. Becker, Beecroft family members. And now, next reader, Dawn.
Adelaide Bedell, Beatrice Bedell, Jaylyn Bedell, Jack Bedell, Catherine Bedell, Mike Bedell, Daniel Bell, Harold and Mary Bellis, Russell Lewis Bennett, Raymond Bernroth, Charlotte A. Berry, Virginia Ginny Berry, Ken Berthoff, Eleanor Belanowski, Gunnar J. Bigley, Grace Bigoda, Rob Bershinoff, George Bitsko, John Blake, George Bober, Marlon Bober, Daniel Robert Boltz, Vera Bonker, Henry Bono, Joan Bono, Walt Bonstein, Heggy Bopp, Brent Borum, Sister Mary Andrew Boris, Debbie Bowens, Kelly Bowes, Horace Bowen, Ted Brace, Helen Brannon, Dale Briggs, Eileen Brigman, Wayne Brigman, Shirley Ridner Brown, Homer Buckaloo, Irene Buckaloo, Gregory Buckaloo Jr., Aidan Bump, Arthur Burkess, Basilo Burgos, Grandpa Boss, Thomas Burke, Edwin Edward Burashian, Anthony Bush, Bill Butler, Virginia Butler, Sister Christine Cables, Bob Callahan, Sister George Capobianco, Barbara Capoletti, Frank Capoletti, Bernadette Carberry, Ted Carhart, Teddy Carhart, Christopher J. Carnesi, Bill Carner, Christine L. Carr, Patricia Carr, Wilbur A. Carr, Wilbur E. and Harriet E. Carr, Christopher Carr, Hermelinda N. Castellanos, Ophelia G. Castellanos, Rogelio Roger Castellanos, William and Emery Castamore, Anthony Sabrinsky, Joseph J. Cernivic Jr., Don Chaplin, Irene Childs, Vincent Chirico, Ronald E. Christensen, William Christensen, Elizabeth Cicerelli, Maria S. Cifelli, Josephine Sizowski, Marlene M. Clark, Joan Clemens, Greg Clymer, Lucy Combs, Frank Conti, Al Courts, Ray Courts, Raymond Courts, George Corrado, Howard Koch, Howard E. Kosh, Theodore Ted Kosh, R. Patrick Costello, Joseph R. Cote, Father Angelus Croce, Gerard Cross, Diane Crum, Raymond J. Cullen, Jr.
James Culligan, Anthony Colmone, Isabel Colmone, Anthony Colmone Sr., Jim Cummings Jr., Keith Cusack, Keith John Cusack Sr., Grace Cutry, Mesh LaRose Duckison, Arvid Danielson, Barbara Darnell, David W. Davenport, Ethan Davenport, Mr. and Mrs. Harold Davy, Francis and Alfred David, Darlene A. Davis, Diane Davis, Kenneth Davis, Marjorie Davis, Robert Davis, Gail Decker, Gary DiFrino, Emily M. Dellavedova, Joyce DeNora, Irene DePace, Joe DePace, Judy Desiderio, Alex John DeTore, Richard Di Bueno, Luis Di Martino, Sal Ritz and Carmen Dragado, Tom Braves, Robert Anthony Drogo, Conrad Dudziak, John J. Duffy, Bill Dwyer, William Edwards, Robert F. E. Halt, Walter Ellison, Eileen Ebal, Patricia Evans, Charles Everts, Norma Easy, Liam Dean Fagan, family of E. Jerome Orr, members of the Farber family, Jack Farrell, John Farrell, May Farrell, Francis and Eugene Feiss, Mario Ferraro, Mary Ferraro, Florence Faris, Camille Ficio, George Figueroa, Edward Filipowski, Mary Filipowski, Audrey Filose, Jean D. Finn, Johnny Fisher, May Fisher, Scott Fisher, Vincent Flatt, Anna Florentine, Louis Florentine, Grace Brennan Flynn, Mr. and Mrs. L.A. Fullenstein, Danny Forrester, Richard Forsano, Mary L. Frediani, Sandra Smith Fredericks, Raymond E. Freeborn, James L. Frey, Jean Freeling, Dominic Mickey Frenzy, Joan Marie Frenzy, Freddie Vacatara, Joan Gadwell, Anthony Gagliotti, Eugene Gallen, Mildred Gallo, Mildred S. Gallo, Anna Ganesh, Michael Garvin, Ed Gaskin, Jeffrey Gaynor, David Geisler, Deb Gowicki, Frank Giambrone, Frank Gibbs, John Gibbs, Joseph A. Garreau, Jack B. Goble, Harvey Gold, Kenneth Gold, Richard Gonzalez.
Beverly Gordon, Robert Gordon, Lois A. Gorzaz,
Eileen M. Gosling, Richard Graham, Susan Rossica Gray, Lisa Widici, Dorothy Gulick, Franklin Gulick, Roger W. Gunderson, William Richard Hamilton, Jane Hammer, Barry Hamp, Patricia Hannigan, James J. Harley, Paul Smokey Hartman, Arthur Artie Hallmaker, Arthur Hallmaker, Carol J. Hazelton, James Hedges, Albert Heidenwolf, Wilbert Heinrich, Alan Herbert, Jose Herrera, Edward Heslin, Pam Hills, Tim Hoyt, Robert Holder, George and Adelaide Holodinsky, Peter and Rita Holodinsky, Peter M. Holodinsky, Arthur King Hosking, Jean Hostak, Jerry Howley, Margaret Peg Huber, Dave Hughes, Tice and Kit Holsizer, James Hutchinson, Brant J. Hutner, Andy Jacko, Michelle D. James, Kenny Janowich, Christian Edward Jarecki, William Jennings, Dennis Jerem, Monique Jerem, Jean and Dale Johnson, Linda Kennedy, Dolores Kingston, Arlene Kinney, Francis Kinney, David Clem, Jeanette Clem, Willard and Jeanette Clem, Karen A. Cohn, the Princess, Ernest M. Kosa, Peggy Cozen, Judith S. Kroboth, Albina K. Lauber, Diana Lampiani, Henry Landman, Tommy Lanner, Daniel R. Lano, Edna M. Lano, Angela Lataro, Mary Lataro, Constance Laws, Dennis Leonard, Janet Lepkowski, Richard W. Letts III, Minnie C. Licata, Jerry Lisanti, Barbara Long, Juanita Lacresti, loved ones, William T. Lovard, Jonathan Lowy, Ray and Gloria Lozier, Mildred Lubowicki, Steve and Mildred Sis Lubowicki, Gail Ludwig, Gina Luisi, Joe and Till Luke, Margaret Lynch, Joe Lynch Sr., Barry Moss, Fred Moss, Kenneth McDonald, Alan Jr. and Alan Sr. McDuff, Lisa Massiag, John Maggio, Laureen Maggio, Mr. and Mrs. E. Manzoni, Mary Patricia Marchant, Jackie Green and Marilyn Moss, for Marley.
James Martin, Ann Martirano, John Mason, Carrie Matos, Fred R. Mall Sr., Mr. and Mrs. Charles P. McAvoy, Johanna McCabe, Winifred McCabe, Dot and Jack McCarthy, Elizabeth McCarthy, Eugene McCarthy, Mary McCormick, Doreen McFadden, Rosemary McKean, Geraldine McPherson, John Greg Meehan, Irene Mendick, Scott Mendick, Sherry Mendick, Trina Mendick, Judith Minana, Joan Middlebrook, Andy Nikita, Donna Nikita, Katie Miller, Pamela Malone, Ernie Minardi, Grandma Philomena T. Miskovich, Irene Mitchell, Robert Mitchell, Debbie Ann Modrow Snook, Ingeborg Moffa, Gary Malampi, Laura Mollivade, Mom, Dad, and Judy, Mommy and Russ, John Monahan, Setsu Nana Mondello, Timothy Pop Pop Mondello Jr., Donald L. Moore, Audrey Morgan, Alfred Murphy, Marion Murphy, Mary Murphy, Chuck and Dot Masili, John J. Madison Sr., Helen Nadizak, Brian Eric Neely, Charles R. Nelson, Marie T. Nelson, Terry A. Nelson, John Nervetti, Adam Nishiloff, Paul Nimbley, Peter G. Nordhausen, Thomas P. Ikaza Sr., Sergeant Timothy O'Brien, Frederick E. Oliver, Bootsy Orr, Deanna Orr, Evelyn Orr, Roman Osadka, Carol Osifchin, Ralph Osmond, John Ozichowski, Doug Paddock, Ted Palumbo, Kathleen Pashley, Frank Pastor, Judy Pastor, Joseph and Lillian Patricia, Harry and Carol Payne, Doris Patterson, Rich Pellegrino, Ann Pello Wagner, Carolyn Nancy Penrose, Lori Lee Penrose, Matthew Penrose, and John Jack Penrose Jr., Thomas Perrine, Kathy Peters, Paul File, Walter Phippany, Joey Feaster, Ray and Betty Lou Biagesi, Valerie Pietrowski, Emmett Pittenger, Carmine and Pat Polizzo, Eleanor Post, John Post Sr., Charles Postas, Judy and Charlie Postas, Ruth E. Powell, Vincent H. Powell.
Dick Poyer, Kenneth Predmore, Carol Ann Presley, John David Pritchard, John Prislak, Anthony Puglisi, Richard Pumphrey, Dorothy Pyatt, Stanley and Dorothy Pyatt, Stanley Pyatt, James Quinlan, Joseph T. Quinlan, Karen Ann Quinlan, Michael and Terrence Radigan, Joseph Ray Dance, Mr. and Mrs. Mike Ray Dance, Annie Rafalski, Ben Ragonese, William Raquette, Al Reynolds, Howard Rigby, John Rinaldi, Robert Benson family, Jack Robinson, Brian W. Roach,
Fernando Rodriguez, Richard Rodheimer, Tyler Rodheimer, Sheila Rogan Raymond, Romano family, friends and family of Ronecto Supermarkets Incorporated, Tracy Murphy Rosencrans, Mr. and Mrs. Ed Rosansky, Wesley Rude, Lenny Rue, Judith A. Ruggiero, Dominic A. Ruggiero Sr., Donna Ryan, Alice Sanders, Loretta Sanguinetti, Deacon John Sanker, Frank Samphilip, Marion Satterthwaite, Cynthia Bailey Savage, Tonhild Shanstra, John Shedding, Heather M. Schill, William F. Schmidt, Robbie Schneider, Mary Schneikenberger, Evelyn Schatz, Scrow family members, Blake Shemansky, Jack Shemansky, Mary Shemansky, the John J. Shemansky family, Farmer John Schroger, Judy Sherlock, Phoebe and Ralph Shotwell, Dorothy R. Sidnam, Carl Sidnam, Les Sidnam, David B. Simmons Sr., June Sims, Leocadia Sinatra, Emma and Frank Sisko, Gloria Sloboda, Jackie Smart, Brian Smith, Hank Smith, Angela Snow, Ethel and Emil Solecki, William Spahn, John Springer, Christopher A. Squashik, David Stansfield, Janet Lee Stay, Joan Stellingworth, Barbara Stem, Kenneth Stem III, Janice Stevens, Richard Stocker, John Stockwall, Alfred Stout Sr., Marguerite Strachan, Jeffrey Strunk, Ted Studney, Delia M. Sutton, Pat Shizubalek Sammons, Alice Sibat, Thomas William Talbot, Vincent C. Tarazona, Matthew Thomas, Richard Tao.
Kristen Trail, Elizabeth Tranzillo, Hilda Trzniski, Clifford W. Tucker, Marion and Jerry Turner, Richard Van Auken, Irene Van Dyke, William Barcatelli, Robert Angelo Barisco, Holly Vaughn, Donald Veely, the Veberoff family, Charles L. Venner, John Joseph Beeries Jr., aka Motorcycle Johnny, Dottie and Bert Villano, Louis and Dorothy Villano, Lorraine Virgo, Frank and Alice von Atzigen, John von Atzigen, William Gary Wack, Bill Waddell, Tara Wagner, Michelle Marie Walk, Katiana Walecki, Donald Patrick Walker, Kurt Edward Warner, Peggy Weaver, Joel Wexler, Lillian Wexler, Milton Wexler, Albert Lemistra, Barbara and Joe Widener, Richie Weiss, Bobby Weller, Howard Butch Weinwick, Alfred Wetmore, Alice Whitehead, George Whitenack, Patricia Whitenack, Fred H. Wildrick, Robert Williams, Robert T. Willis, Michael Joseph Wills, Jill Wilson, Erwin M. Wolfson, Ann Woolman, Alan Wood, Craig Wood, Joan Wood, Maureen Wood, Robert Wood, Helen Clark Woodhull, Betty Woods, Christopher Wright, Viola Zosislak, Murray and David Zeidman, Herta Zickgraf, Lois Zatone. I would now like to read the additional names that are not included in your program. Mary Ferreri, George Ferreri, Emma Bilou, Amy Bilou, Michael Carbonella, Kurt and Irene DeGroat, Ruth DeGraff, Arthur DeGraff, Bob Folks, Gail Folks, Barry Atinello, Raymond Raub III, Richard Kopaniecki, the Holzinga family, the Reichart family, Bill Hart McGrath, David Charnews, Sonia Jurison, Kay O'Connor, Doris Risden, Neil Vanderhoff, Nathaniel Vaughn, Dorinda Whitehead.
Eugene M. Cullen.
That concludes the reading of our loved ones' names. I would like to sincerely thank you again for allowing us the honor and privilege of reading their names out loud tonight. And I apologize for any mispronunciations that may have happened. We really do try hard to make it as perfect for you as possible. So I'd now like to announce a musical selection by Jackie McManus and Bill McGowan.
Thank you, Royce, for the honor tonight to play. If I may, from the book of Ecclesiastes, the author proclaims that he has made everything beautiful in its time, and he has also set eternity on the human heart. Everlasting beauty, peace for those who can now do all things. This song is called Beautiful, celebrating all that is noble, true, and beautiful.
You're so beautiful. You're so beautiful. You're so beautiful. You're so holy. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure. You're so beautiful. You're so beautiful. You're so beautiful.
beautiful.
You're so beautiful.
You're so beautiful.
You're so beautiful. You're so
I can do all things.
You're so beautiful.
You're so beautiful.
You're so beautiful.
You're so beautiful.
You're so beautiful. You're so holy. You're so beautiful.
You're so beautiful. You're so beautiful. You're so holy.
Beautiful Jesus. Beautiful Jesus.
Beautiful Jesus. Beautiful Jesus.
You're so beautiful.
You're so beautiful.
You're so beautiful.
You're so beautiful.
You're so beautiful. You're so holy.
Thank you, Jackie and Bill. I wrote this comment before I knew what the name of the song was. I said, thank you, what a beautiful selection. And what a wonderful reminder of the power that music holds in reflecting our loved ones no longer here with us tonight. So as I was preparing some reflections for our program tonight, I was really trying to find inspiration in one of our primary objects that we center tonight around, which is our tree. For me personally, at this time of year when I was a child, there was only one tree that I was focused on, and that seemed to be our Christmas tree. The smell of the pine in our living room, the lens of awe and wonder through which I viewed the hundreds of multicolored lights that enveloped our tree, the spectacle of decorating the tree, and eventually the amazement of gifts stacked seemingly higher than I could see on Christmas morning. My family and I were recently decorating our Christmas tree, which, as most of you know, involves getting out the seemingly hundreds of ornaments collected through the years. Each ornament has a narrative, tells a story, and has a deep and personal meaning for each of us. Ornaments on the tree are like memories. They take us back to another place, to another time, and we hear the words of that special someone who either bought them or more likely made them. From the New York Yankees ornament we bought for our spouse when they took us to our first game together, to the homemade ball of twine that your son continues to insist was supposed to be the North Star guiding the three wise men. These treasure trinkets contain immeasurable value, not for what they look like, but for what they feel like, really for how they make you feel. Each ornament is a memory, and looking at the tree as a whole is really a kaleidoscope of commemorations, of celebrations, and of memorials. As we light the tree tonight, I'd like you to look at each light and what it represents for you. The memory of your loved ones lives on in those lights and in ornaments all around you every day, not just during this holiday season. Share your stories. Allow the strength of our community to surround you with support and love. And most of all, know that you are never alone in the journey. Thank you all for allowing us to be a small part of that journey tonight. So at this time, we're going to pause so we can all gather outside for the lighting of the tree. So before we light the tree, I would like to thank the communities that are committed to working with us to bring this program to all 3 counties where services are hosted and trees glow throughout the holiday season. We truly appreciate the efforts of Warren and Sussex County administrators and the Milford Borough, who earmarked this tree nearly 2 decades ago as our Lights of Life memorial tree. So at this time, it is my pleasure to light the tree and welcome up Marlena Shedding to recite the poem Lights for Life.
Lights for Life by Nadine A. Allen. Gaze upon this lighted tree, accepting the blessings that it sends, knowing each light bears a name of family and friend. Lights for life, showing the way in a world that's dark and gray, showing us tomorrow can be a better day. Lights for life, reflecting faith for each of our beliefs, to help us now upon this earth as we work through all the griefs. Lights for life, filled with hope of a time that's yet to be, when peace and joy will rule the world and God will set us free. Lights for life, aglow with love of loved ones now gone home, a gift to each of you that simply says shalom. Lights for life, to make us smile as our lives we share anew, knowing faith, hope, and love will always see us through. May these lights of life refresh you as holiday seasons now begin, knowing God's love is always near, again and again and again.
Please respond. We remember them. At the rising of the sun and at its going down, we remember them. At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of the winter, we remember them. At the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. At the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of the summer, we remember them. At the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. At the beginning of the year and at its end, we remember them. When we're weary, in need of strength, we remember them. When we're lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joy we crave to share, we remember them. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember them. When we have achievements that are based on theirs, we remember them. As long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. In the darkness of the winter, the presence of the Holy warms our hearts and fills us with the hope and peace that only the Holy One can offer. This tree is a blessing to us. It reminds us of all that is beautiful, all that is filled with the gentleness and the promise of God. It stands in our midst as a tree of light, that we might promise such beauty, hope, and compassion to others, to each other, as our world so much is in need. We ask your blessings on all as we light this tree in honor of our loved ones who have passed. May the light it gives be a sign of your ongoing, loving presence. And may all who observe this tree feel the warmth and comfort of these beautiful lights and the light of the Holy One. Let your blessings rest upon those who have passed and those who grieve their loss. And for those celebrating the Christmas holiday, may we be filled with the trust and wonder of Mary, the strength and courage of Joseph, the joy of the angels, and the determination of the Magi, and most of all, the peace of the child. We ask this through all that is holy. Amen.
This concludes our service this evening. I'd like to thank you once again for joining us, and thank you for your continued support of Karen and Quinlan Hospice and the Joseph T. Quinlan Bereavement Center. Drive safely home. Good night.